Fire's homecoming gig at the St Albans Arena.
Oh, it was so... I can't describe it. It was really good. It was just so good because everyone was dancing and everyone really got into it. And we love them. This is Friendly Fires in their own words on Radio 1. Woo!
BBC Radio 1 Stories.
It's time now to get them to look back at 2008. It was a massive year for the band. They'd started to get mainstream recognition for their music from support at Radio 1 and their live performances. Before they set off touring for the summer, the band had already put the finishing touches to their self-titled debut album. Brit Award-winning record producer Paul Epworth, who went on to work with Florence and the Machine and Adele, had been working with Ed, Jack and Ed producing their debut album, and he remembers what it was like being in the studio with them.
I was really impressed by their approach to how they recorded and how they worked together. It seemed that they had a very democratic approach to their input on creating the song. And while the track we did in the first session wasn't particularly successful, because like I said, I think it was also their first experience of working in a studio, it meant that we'd kind of explored the failings that time, and then when we actually came together to work on something the next time, it was far more successful, which obviously jumped in the pool. The thing that's so interesting about Friendly Fires is that they always seem to come from much more of a dance music background. You know, they've got this kind of really deep knowledge of electronic music, but they're filming it through the band perspective rather than being like a guitar band trying to filter it through a dance music perspective, and I think that's what sets them aside from most of the bands that are around, who you could compare them to. It's actually quite an interesting process with them because they quite often creating tracks from scratch with them. They've come in with a few elements of some ideas that maybe Ed had got stuck on. It was like he'd been inspired by something and then kind of needed an extra bit of input. And I guess it was just maybe having someone else to sort of just bounce ideas off. You know, I think that's often how the best bands work and have, you know, the best creative relationships is having a kind of a sort of collaborative process. And I think particularly Jumping the Pool, we ended up doing a lot of toing and froing between Ed taking parts home and then coming back with new bits. You know, obviously the results speak for themselves, I think. So.
Summer 2008 for Friendly Fires was spent almost entirely on the road. Ahead of the album coming out in September, it was time for the band's first ever tour of America, and it's fair to say it was something of a whirlwind. Here's guitar player Ed again.
Our first show was in Philadelphia and we were in this backstage. It was a club night, so we were the only band playing, flanked by DJs.
I remember before we walked into the venue, there's a van with sort of bullet holes down the side of it, and I was just thinking, welcome to Philadelphia, this is the way they roll.
It started in a way that would very much set the tone for the rest of the frantic trip, as Ed, with two Ds, explains.
When we got to Philadelphia Airport, when I went through passport control, the guy inspecting my visas and all of that was a lovely dude called Sheridan, who asked me if I liked to drink. And I didn't know if this was some kind of, I don't know, like a, if he was trying to expose me as some, fiend, and they would then eject me straight away. But I didn't want to lie to the man either, so I said that, we do enjoy to, relax before a show. He then slipped $20 into my passport and said I had to have a drink on him, which was one of the nicest things anyone's ever done in an airport for me ever. That was, an amazing bit of, humanity. It was a good glimpse into what America could hold for us.
Here's lead singer Ed again.
I think that whole tour was really good. And you know that if you start with something like that, it's hopefully that kind of good luck will continue, and it kind of did.
After arriving back to the UK at the end of the summer, there was one big test left before their debut album was released, the Reading and Leeds Festival.
Jumping the Pool had been played on the radio, I suppose, for about a good month and a bit. And we really wanted to do something special with it live for our Reading Festival performance. The track was kind of sort of calypso and samba inspired, so we thought it would be like a fitting ending to our set to bring a sort of a samba drum troupe with us to the festival, and we brought sort of 3 carnival dancers with us as well to dance on stage with us. We just wanted to do something that would kind of stand out, and it definitely worked for us.
This gig was turning into a special moment for the boys.
I remember having a bit of a grin on my face for most of our Reading show because I knew at the end of it all we'd be pulling out this spectacular.
It became one of the most talked about performances of the entire Reading and Leeds Festival.
Yeah, it felt great that people were singing along to our music maybe like a month before the album had been released, and it felt like a turning point in that sense because before people didn't really know our music. They just heard about us and just happened to turn up and see what we're about.
The week the album came out in September 2008, they did their first live session for Zane Lowe, by now a long-time supporter of the band. It was, nonetheless, a milestone for the Friendly Fires boys, and quite a moment for all involved.
This is going to be a moment, and a moment we've been waiting for this radio show to do for a long time, and now with the album officially done and, you know, well loved by all of us. It's great to have Friendly Fires and Maida Vale. What's up, guys?
Hello. Hey, how's it going?
Good to hear your voices down there, and how have you been sounding throughout the day?
It's been a relatively easy process today.
Yeah, pretty tip-top, if we do say so ourselves. Well, you're a good band with great engineering crew down there as well.
That's true, yeah.
Big props to everyone here.
Props to Mitty. Yeah, doing a great job.
How long does it take? By the time we got Friendly Fires and Maida Vale Studios, we knew their music really well. We knew the album was great. But I remember that they hadn't really hit their stride in terms of marrying their music with their audience just yet. They hadn't broken through, is the term that gets thrown around a lot. A lot of the times bands release records and the audience is there right from the start. Then the big challenge is to hold on to them. Then there's the other side of the coin where bands put out a record and it's a really slow burn. And the only way that you can kind of get yourselves noticed in that environment, there's several ways you can do it. But the most common and best one is to just go and tour. And that's what Friendly Fires did, is they just went and played and played and played and played and made sure that every festival performance and every event that they performed at, whether it was Radio 1's big weekend, or was Reading and Leeds or whatever, that they stole the show. And so they became one of those bands of the summer. And over the summer, the record started to sell. And so by the end of it, they were playing bigger venues. They had, you know, lots of support from the media and from their audience, and they were exactly where they needed to be. When we got them in Maida Vale Studios, it felt like it was just at the start of all of that. From their first ever Zane Lowe session on BBC Radio 1, and this is the story of Friendly Fires in their own words.
BBC Radio 1 Stories.
So then, on with the story. Even though their debut album was very much a critical success and flipping brilliant, it's fair to say that as a group, Friendly Fires had relatively low expectations of how well the album would do in the charts, as lead singer Ed and Ed the guitarist recall.
I think